That's not record. What is going on, people of the extranet? Tyler here with Random Automotive, and today we're going to show you how to do a LED or LED conversion on your 1997 through 2006 Jeep Wrangler. So some of the tools that you're going to need to do this is you're going to need a short Phillips head screwdriver, and I guess I need my my stuff to show you. Hang on one second. And we'll need some of these. These are PC74 LEDs. They are not the same as 168 or 192s. So I actually made a video, it's actually kind of funny, of this same Jeep doing this same thing a couple of days ago, and here's what happened. It's always a good idea too, when you pull your screws out, to kind of keep them organized so you know where you put them. Here's my screwdriver. And also after that, I realized that I ordered the wrong LEDs, so we have the right ones this time, and we're going to go ahead and get those put in and show you how to do that. There is one thing we need to talk about, and it's polarity. So if you're having an issue where some of your LEDs come on and some do not, here's what's going on. So when you have polarity, you have a positive person and you have a negative Karen. So in an incandescent bulb, or the bulbs that come factory in your Jeep, it looks something similar to this. Excuse my drawing, but you can see what's going on. Plus and a minus. The electricity will flow through a coil and it'll go through and come out this side. An LED is a diode that looks something like this. There's a block on here keeping it to flow backwards. So if you put your LED in backwards, it won't work. So let's get to installing these things. So these PC74 bulbs I was telling you about, the link is actually in the description. Go check it out. So to get started, you actually have two screws. They're Phillips head screws that are right here and on the adjacent side. So we're going to go ahead and pull those out. So above the dash, after we pull those two screws out, there is a plastic cover that goes over your defrost vent. And the only thing that holds that in is clips. So we're going to go ahead and just take our Phillips head screwdriver, or a flathead, probably be a little bit easier. We're going to find these clips. There's one in the center right here. We're just going to pop that out. One down there on the ends out, and it'll pop free. I want to break free. So with that being said, and it's kind of hard to get to and show you, but there are 3 screws on the back of this plastic bezel that go up against the dashboard, and it's underneath that plastic cover that we cut off. So we're going to go ahead and take those out now. That's why you need the short screwdriver. So this left speaker cover we actually don't have to pull off, but I'm going to pull it off anyway because I want to show you something. Get out of there. Man, that is dirty. So when we go to pull off this bottom cover, it's actually slotted in kind of like a hinge, and then at the top there are these plastic like metal clips, and I don't know if you can see that off in there. That's actually what's holding it on. It's actually up here, so you probably can't see it. So the bottoms come loose. It does help too if you drop your steering column down to the bottom, which it already was. Short people problem. And see if we can just kind of easily, without breaking these clips, pry it off. You can see that clip there now. So the other going to do the other side the same way, and that will drop that entire piece. All right, so now that we got that bezel off, we're going to have 2 screws on this plastic bezel here. Should all be Phillips heads. There's one on this side, and there's one over here on this side. So now that we got that off, this entire plastic bezel will just lift right out of there. All right, so now that we got that out, we've got to take the instrument cluster out. So there are 2 screws, one up here, one down here, and the process repeats on the other side. Again, Phillips head screws that we're going to pop out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll make your entire, well, help me to understand. It'll make your entire instrument cluster come loose. Now, we got 2 cables in the back we need to disconnect. Well, get in there. Okay, so I don't know how well you're actually going to be able to see this, but on the back of this, there are 2 plugs. This black one has a pull tab that faces toward the passenger side that we're going to pull out. Push the tab in, pull out. The white one has a tab that faces the driver's side that you're going to push in and pull out. Now your entire gauge cluster is free. So now here's the back of the gauge cluster. Here's our LEDs. Open them up. So we're going to pull a light bulb out. To do that, you take it, pinch it, and twist it until the bulb comes out. Now here's the bulb, and as you can see here, come on camera. So you can see here that it's an incandescent bulb. A lot of them have these little blue films, and I'll show you what they look like. Have these little blue films on them that go over the covering of the light bulb. Get off of that instrument cluster. And they go over that to give it a blue tint. They fell off on this one. That's why that guy, that's why the dash has kind of an orange tint to it. And another reason we want to do an LED upgrade. So here are the LEDs, actually much smaller than the old ones. They come with these new sockets too on the kit that I show you down on the Amazon link below. So we're just going to insert the LED in there. Make sure it's nice and even. That's what it'll look like in the socket. Now we're going to replace it into the instrument cluster. Make sure that it goes in there flush and turn it to lock it, just like that. Now, when we hook it up, and you may notice a few that does not work immediately, that's because the polarity I told you about is wrong. So we'll have to change that. But let's go ahead and get all these in there, and then we'll go from there. So now we've got all our LEDs put in, and we've got our wires hooked back up, and just turned our hazards on. I'll turn those interior lights off. Let's turn them on and see how they work. Okay, so this is actually good. You can see here they come on about half the side, and the rest of them they did not. That goes back to our polarity side. A few of them have been put in backwards. So we're going to take it back out, and we're going to start swapping bulbs as we see the errors. And for testing purposes, this white connector here corresponds with this one. That's the only one you really need to hook up just to test your lights. So when I'm talking about the light bulb being in backwards, you're going to pull the light bulb out of the socket, and it'll look something like that. When we want to flip it around, we'll just pull it straight out, flip it like that, and put it back in. That should correct your issue. So now that I got everything hooked back in place, what we're going to do is we're just going to flip our lights on before we screw everything back in and make sure everything looks good. And yeah, that looks sweet actually. You can see there's no dead zones, there's no anything like that. It's a solid color all the way across, and that's what we're looking for. So no shame in here, guys. This package of lights that I put the description in is actually only 6. We're going to need a couple of more to do your climate control lights. So unfortunately, guys, we're not going to be able to do that today. But if you will subscribe and like, that's why you should do that. That way you can see when we upload that video. So make sure you get 2 of these, and you'll probably have a few extra left, so that'll be awesome. All right, so now that we've got everything looks to be in working order, we just want to make sure we turn our key on really quick. If I can find them. Where did I put them? And we want to make sure that we turn that on. Oh, geez. And make sure that everything engages fine, your buzzer comes on, all that good stuff if you have it hooked up. Everything looks okay, so we're good to go there. We're going to disconnect we're going to pull our key out because that's going to be on our way actually. Make sure your wires are tucked down here, and we're going to make sure that we get this nice and aligned to where it is supposed to be. It's catching on those wires, and that should be about where it's at. And we're just going to go ahead and tack these screws back in really quick. All right, so now that that's back in, we're going to take our top bezel. This will go in first. We're going to stick it back on, kind of at an angle. A lot of dust in here. I'm going to just kind of tap on it to get it perfectly aligned with the screw holes. Remember, you got your 3 up here and your 1 in each corner, so we're going to go ahead and put those on. Okay, so now that we've got the top bezel all secured, we're going to go ahead and place our bottom one back on. Minding these tabs here, we want to put them in all 3 of these slots here, make sure they line up. It's going to take a little finagling to get around that keyhole, so you want to make sure you take your keys out, line your clips up, and 1 little tap. There's 1. There's 2. So remember the 2 longer screws go in here. You may want to push your rubber boot kind of back off in there for a little bit more sound deadening. Make sure it's pushed off in there. And we're just going to tack these longer screws back in really quick. I went ahead and screwed this panel back in. You really didn't have to even take that one off, but just so I could show you those clips. All right, so now that we've got that screwed in, we've got our top piece here. The folded down portion goes toward the front of the Jeep. We're going to just kind of stick that on there, get that lined up, and it'll have several clips that push in. Should be 1 more over here. There we go. And we're all lined up and everything's back together now. All right, so let's take a look at the final product now that everything's back together. Man, that looks nice, and especially with all the other gauge lights. So especially with all the other gauge lights, that looks great. Looks like everything's hooked back up and ready to go. So as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching. Want to stay tuned, want to make sure that you subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. That way when we do that center console lights, you already know it's out there. We also got plenty more things coming up with this Jeep. We've got to replace the fan clutch, and we've got to do a couple of other things with the emission system. So stay tuned, guys. Thank you for watching.